Welcome back, Old and Soul fans. Today we're making a super simple beef barbacoa recipe that everybody in your family is going to love. So stick with us and we're going to show you exactly how we make it for a couple minutes so we can get a nice sear on that side. All right, we're going to go in with the other beef up. So two forks are going to be. This is a super simple barbacoa recipe that we're gonna make in our Instant Pot. You can do it a couple ways. You can do it pressure cooking, that'll make it in a couple hours, or you can do low and slow for several hours, which is great if you're going off to work for the day and you wanna come home and have it ready when you get back home. I've got a 3-pound chuck roast here. The first step to our recipe is to get a nice sear on this chuck roast. So we're gonna get it in a really hot pan and let it sear for a couple minutes and get a nice Maillard reaction on it. To help that, I've let this sit in the refrigerator for a couple days and just dry out a little bit. It's not dry aging. Dry aging is a very complex, highly controlled process. But what I find is if I just let meat dry out in the refrigerator for a couple of days when I'm trying to sear it, it gets some of the moisture off of the edges of it, and it lets me get a much easier, nice sear on the meat. So we'll get it over to our pan and we'll sear it up. All right, we've got our pan warmed up. We've got about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil in here, and we're just gonna put our chuck roast in the pan. And we really want to just leave the chuck roast for a couple minutes so we can get a nice sear on each side of it. Don't move it around much. All right, now that we've been going for about 2 minutes, we're gonna check this and see how it's looking. Nice sear on that side. All right, we're gonna go in with the other side now. About 2 more minutes there. All right, nice browning all the way around on our beef. Now that our beef is nice and browned, we're gonna cook a few veggies in here for some sauce that's gonna go in our pot. We're gonna add 1 diced onion. We're just gonna cook these around until they get translucent. Now that our onions are looking pretty good and a little bit translucent, we're gonna add about half a can of Rotel tomatoes. A little bit of salt. A little bit of fresh ground black pepper. Now we're gonna make our adobo sauce. Our beef is brown and we're gonna let it rest for just a little bit. And while we do that, we're gonna make our adobo sauce that goes with our barbacoa. To do that, we're gonna make this in a Vitamix. If you don't have a Vitamix, you can use a food processor, but there are a couple variations on how you would prep some of these that I'll talk about along the way. So the first step is to add about 1.5 cups of beef stock, 1/3 cup of apple cider vinegar. We've got 5 cloves of garlic. Since we're using a Vitamix, we're putting these in whole. We haven't taken the skins off of them. If you're using a food processor, you're probably gonna wanna take the skins off because a Vitamix can completely pulverize them. We've got 3 of our Chipotle chilies with 2 teaspoons of the adobo sauce included. We've got oregano here, 2 teaspoons, a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of cumin, a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. Then we're gonna add the juice of 1 lime. Not a very juicy lime today, guys. We're gonna get this in our Vitamix for a minute. That'll make sure the garlic gets completely pulverized and everything else in the sauce gets liquefied. All right, fans, so the next part is just to assemble all of these ingredients. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put our adobo sauce in our slow cooker or Instant Pot, whichever you're using. We're gonna put all of our nice veggies that we sauteed into the pot. And then the next step is, you could have done this before. You could have trimmed your beef up before you seared it, but I found it a lot easier just to sear it before I had chopped it up. When you cut up a piece of beef this size and you try to sear it in a pan, sometimes it can cool down the pan and you actually don't get a sear. The beef just kind of steams. So we're gonna try to cut this up in fairly large chunks. Remember, this is still raw. So you need to be careful about contamination. You can see my beef is still raw there in the center, still very red. So when you're done with this, make sure you wash your knife and you wash your cutting board. We've got a really nice sear on this. And we're gonna cut this up into just a couple inch sized chunks that we're gonna put in here. And to cut through a piece of beef this size, you're gonna want a fairly sharp knife. I'd recommend honing it quickly if you've got that at home to make sure you're ready to cut. All of our beef is in. We're gonna add a couple of bay leaves to the pot. We're gonna stir it around just a little bit. And then we'll get the top on. All right, we got all our ingredients assembled in our Instant Pot. Like I said earlier, you can do this on pressure cook. You could do it on pressure cook on high for about an hour and a half, and then you can shred your beef once that's finished. Be away from the house for several hours. I'm gonna do this on slow cook. I'm gonna do it on slow cook on high for 10 hours. So we're gonna start this, and we're gonna come back once that's done. All right, fans, it's been about 10 hours, so I think our barbacoa is ready. We're gonna crack the top of our Instant Pot. We didn't do this on pressure cook, so we didn't have pressure to release, but if you did, just make sure you release your pressure before, because we have had liquid shoot all the way up to our ceiling in the past. So we'll start to get our beef out of here, and in just a minute, once we've gotten it all out, we're gonna shred it up. I've found the easiest way to shred up beef like this is to use 2 forks. There's lots of funky gadgets out there, some claws and things that you can use to shred meat, but 2 forks tend to be really nice and work pretty well for me. So I'll show you how I shred it up. As you're shredding, usually I'll ladle a little bit of the adobo sauce in here. You're not gonna wanna use all of it because it's gonna be too much. It's gonna be too soupy for your tacos, but a little bit as you're shredding it up will help keep the meat nice and moist and tasty. We don't have to really work too hard to shred this beef up, so two forks are gonna be super easy. You can see how the meat's pulling away really nicely. It's gonna make nice shredded barbacoa. And on some of this, you can still see the char that we got earlier today. So nice browning on the meat should give us nice flavor when our fans eat it. We're gonna continue to shred this up, and then we'll get it on some tacos. Fans, if you find any big chunks of fat as you're shredding up your meat, you're gonna wanna make sure you take those out of there. They're just too big. They probably didn't render down. They may be a little bit of silver skin. So you may wanna get that out for your guests because they're probably not gonna wanna eat these big globby pieces of fat. Just a quick tip for you. All right, I found a couple taste testers out in the hallway here. So we've got our brisket tacos ready. We're gonna put a few pickled onions on each one of them before we do our taste test. Oh, do I have another taste tester here?
Yes.
Jack? All right, you can have mine. I'm gonna put a little bit of cilantro on each one to make them nice and green. Get a little bit of veg in there, and then we're gonna put a little bit of Cholula on. Not too much. All right.
Is that beans?
No, it's barbacoa.
Oh, it looks a lot like yours.
All right, here you go, William. Here you go, Louise.
Thank you.
Jack, you and I can share.
Here, can you split it?
Yeah, just take a bite.
That is juicy. That is really, really good.
Carve all of it.
Did you eat too much? Yeah, eat all of it.
That is so good.
Here you go, Jack.
It's juicy and flavorful, and the pickled onions really add a kick in there.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us on Oil and Soul again this week. Next week we'll be coming with more fun-filled cooking videos. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Join Oil and Soul for more family-friendly cooking content.